The views expressed on this show are those of the host, guests, and callers, and not those of radio station KICK, Vision Communications Incorporated, its management, or advertisers. Vision Communications Incorporated is not responsible for the validity or accuracy of information presented on this program.
Attention sports fans. Looking for the best in updates and interviews for your high school sports? Well, you found it. You're on board with the Scoreboard Guy.
Waynesville Tiger, and from the University, or from Lindenwood University, Callie Bildner. Callie has been kind enough to join us. Callie, how are you doing today?
Pretty good. How are you?
I am good, and congratulations on behalf of the Chevroleters of the Ozarks, Great Southern Bank, and S&H Farm Supply on the hashtag Next50. Waynesville Tiger, Lady Tiger, going back to the early 2000 teens. Graduated in 2016 from Waynesville. Take us back to your earliest memories there as a Waynesville Lady Tiger.
My earliest memory would be freshman year. We actually won the district championship, and being a freshman, that was a complete different world that I've never been a part of. And starting off freshman year, being a starter on the varsity team, there was a lot of pressure, I guess you could say, and I actually ended up being a team captain by the end of the freshman season, so that was definitely something that I'll never forget.
Going back, how long had you been involved in basketball? I understand your father's a retired, long-time high school boys basketball coach there at Waynesville. Is that kind of where your interest started?
Yes, so I started playing basketball when I was about 5. I actually played on an all-boys team from kindergarten through 6th grade because there were no girls my age in Waynesville that played basketball, so being on an all-boys team, that really helped me develop physically and mentally just because their game is so much far ahead than girls basketball. So that really developed me into the player I became.
As you look back on your high school career and, being a team captain as a freshman, there were probably likely some upperclassmen that really maybe influenced you and affected you in a positive way, maybe mentored you, so to speak. As you look back at your high school career, who were some of those players, peers, and maybe coaches that really kind of helped form your game?
Yeah, Coach Matlock helped out a lot. We had been family friends growing up since my dad was the men's basketball coach and she is the women's basketball coach. But she sat me down and just told me, everything's going to be okay. You're in this role because you deserve it, and just do what you know how to do, and everything will be fine. And then player-wise, I would say Hannah Bland, which she was 2 years older than me. She was a team captain, so she kind of just took me under her wing and kind of showed me the way.
As you look back at the high school career, 2,000 points scored in high school, 1,000 rebounds, or more than 1,000 rebounds, more than 2,000 points. Your senior year, the Class 5 Player of the Year. What are those highlights outside of those you look back on, the district championship, your freshman year? What are some things that really stand out about your high school career?
I would just say all the memories that I had throughout the seasons and all the different girls and the individual things we were able to do each season. I started off my high school career winning a district championship, and then I ended my high school career in a district championship. So just small things like that you'll remember for the rest of your life, including the 1,000 plus rebounds and the 2,000 plus rebounds. But it's the team success that you'll remember more than the individual.
Visiting with Callie Bildner from the Waynesville Lady Tigers basketball program and Lindenwood University here as part of our hashtag Next50, greatest athletes in Southwest Missouri history. This segment brought to you by First Independent Bank of Aurora, Missouri. First Independent Bank of Aurora, helping that community and some surrounding communities grow by providing affordable home, auto, and commercial loans. Callie, as you look back at your high school career, let's visit a little bit about the rivalries. Obviously, the Ozark Conference, you've got the Kickapoos, the West Plains, who are with Coach Womack. They're always a very good physical team, and Kickapoo, Glendale. What are some of the rivalries that really stand out to you? Maybe it's a team or even maybe players that you really enjoyed battling against.
As a team, I think our number one rival was Kickapoo, just because they're good every year, and that's just whenever you have a program that's always good, you always want to beat that program that's good. So as for Waynesville, Kickapoo was one of our main rivals for basketball, I would say. And individually, I would say probably Parkview, just because they had a player on their team that was in the same position as me, and we just got to battle every year. And so that was just something that I always looked forward to.
Now, coming out of your senior year, you attend Lindenwood University. What went into that decision, and how long had that decision already taken place? Reading your bio, it goes back to your freshman year when you attended a game there at Lindenwood. Kind of take us through that process of that decision being made, and obviously an outstanding decision, but take us through the process of deciding to go to Lindenwood.
Yep, so actually my freshman year of high school, I attended a Lindenwood women's basketball game. And I remember sitting in the stands watching the game thinking I'll never be good enough to play here. And then as I progressed through high school and I started getting all the recruitment letters, Lindenwood was one of them. So I went on a visit. It felt like home. I really meshed with the team. The coaches were amazing. It just felt like the right decision for me. So I committed the summer going into my senior year of high school.
And in 2016-17 season, your freshman year in college, you were part of the MIAA, and you were the freshman of the year in that conference, averaging nearly 15 points a game and almost 10 rebounds a game. So you led the Lions, the Lindenwood Lions, in both categories. What do you remember from your freshman year at Lindenwood?
Freshman year was a battle, to be honest. Just changing from the high school play to the college play was a big step, and for the first of the season, I remember coach coming to me right before the game and telling me that I was going to start. And of course, you're a freshman at your first game, you automatically get nervous. And he was like you earned this, you'll be fine, just do what you know how to do. And so the season progressed, and right before Christmas break, I tore my groin and was out for almost 9 weeks trying to recover the groin because it kept getting re-injured and such like that. But then as the season progressed through, we made the conference tournament for the first time in Lindenwood history, so that was a huge mile marker for our program.
And then you go into your sophomore year, and you set multiple regular season records at 352 points. Rebound. They have to take me through those. What are those records? You look at these numbers: 352, single season scoring record at 535. Second team MIAA with 17.5 points and 11.5 rebounds that year. And what was your sophomore year? Did you feel like you really grew maybe physically as well as mentally going into your sophomore year there, and still a member of the MIAA, I believe?
Yep, we were still in the MIAA. I would say individual growth and team growth. Sophomore year, we really kind of bought in and came together as a team, and we ended up winning the MIAA conference tournament and clinching a bid to the national tournament, which was also a first for the program. And none of us really knew what to expect going to a national tournament because we had never been there before. And all those memories and just the first, I'll never forget those.
Yeah. Then you go from the MIAA, so you're already a freshman year in the MIAA, an all-conference performer. Then you go to the GLVC. And how did that change, as far as talent-wise? Obviously, travel-wise, it changed quite a bit. You also bring teams like Drury into that, maybe William Jewell. What was that like, making that adjustment to a new conference?
It wasn't super big, just because for our non-conference schedule, we played a lot of GLVC teams when we were in the MIAA, so we were aware of quite a few of them. We had played Drury when we were in the MIAA, things like that. The big adjustment was the travel schedule, because for the MIAA, we would leave Wednesday morning and not come back until late Saturday night. And then for the GLVC, we drove up on Thursday, came back, and then drove up again on Saturday and then came back. So it was so much less so much less overnight stays, so we were in the school and doing our schoolwork more.
Now, your home opener back in this year, 35 points and 14 rebounds in a double-digit come-from-behind win against Pittsburgh State. What do you remember about that contest?
That was a huge win for us. They had just beat Kansas in their exhibition game, and so opening up with them for our first regular season game, we knew it was going to be a battle, and we had just left them in the MIAA, so we still had a little bit of a rivalry going on, and we battled to the end, and we were able to pull it off.
You go and you talked a little bit about the rivalries there within the Ozark Conference. What was it like at the college level? Who were those teams and those facilities? Maybe it's a facility you enjoyed playing in, maybe the most outside of your home facility, but what were some of the memories there at the college level with rivalries, both team-wise and individual-wise, and probably played against some of the kids, maybe you young ladies that you even played against in high school?
Yep, so for Lindenwood in the MIAA, almost every team was a rival. We had, at the previous years, we hadn't had much success against the team, so we really wanted to go out and win every single game. So every game was a battle. I really liked playing at Northwest up in Maryville University just because that's where my dad played college basketball. So it just kind of brought an ease to me, and just it was the same gym that he played in, so just memories like that, like you don't really think, oh, I'm going to play in the same gym that my dad played in, and just seeing his picture in the Hall of Fame there, just my basketball experiences are really cool.
Visiting once again with Callie Bildner here from Waynesville Lady Tigers and the Lindenwood Lady Lions is our hashtag next 50. And Callie, as you look back at your senior season at the college level, a whole lot of especially towards the end of it, with the coronavirus. How did that affect your team? Were you able to get closure, so to speak?
Really no closure. We were actually at Drury for the national tournament. We had just practiced. We were getting on the bus. We were supposed to play the next day, and we got the call while we were on the bus then, go home, the tournament's been canceled. So we really didn't ever have any closure, and we couldn't have any team meetings after that just because everything was shut down as soon as they called off the tournament. We're still kind of just lingering around, I guess you could say. It doesn't really feel like basketball's over yet, but once I know like my teammates are going back to Lindenwood and starting practices, I know it'll kick in that, wow, it's really over.
Now, as you've officially graduated, correct, from Lindenwood University?
Correct. Yes.
You've got a degree in physical education, and you've recently, not as recent as I thought, but within the last month, you've signed a contract to continue your career in the education field. Fill us in on that. What led into that decision?
Yes, so I accepted a job for Lebanon Middle School PE, and I will also be the JV girls volleyball coach and the middle school assistant basketball coach. And Lebanon's a great place, and growing up, they were only about 30 minutes down the road, and they have an amazing gym, and I know their athletics are headed in the right direction, and I'm excited to get started and see what we can do.
Now, how is that, and obviously you probably haven't had an opportunity to meet the folks there at Lebanon with all of the social distancing things going on, but do you feel like you're maybe going to take a little bit of ribbing? You know, hey, this is Waynesville. What the heck is a Waynesville lady doing in here? Especially probably all the success you had in that gymnasium as a player.
Yep, I think my success that I had in high school and college led me to the position I'm in, and I think they saw the success and were like, yeah, we want her on board. I think she could do a lot of great things for us, so I'm hoping I can.
KICK 92.3, KICK, home of the Royals. Brought to you by Chevy Dealers of the Ozarks and the Missouri State Highway Patrol, who reminds us to take that 3 seconds and buckle up. It's 3 seconds that could save your life. Be safe, be smart, and be here tomorrow. We're certainly welcome to the Missouri Sports Network, the Knicks Lady Eagles volleyball coach, head coach, Annie Zimmerman. Coach Zimmerman, thanks for your time today.
Oh, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
This Zoom meeting and YouTube has kind of become the norm, so to speak. And it's so far, it's worked out well. Been able to visit with a lot of different coaches from around the area. But as you head into this fall, also the new norm is the Lady Eagles going to the Final Four, 67-8. I think over the past 2 seasons, including a state championship, a runner-up finish. Talk about the last 2 seasons and what it's meant to Lady Eagle volleyball.
Well, it's been phenomenal. Obviously, when you have that many wins put together in a couple seasons, obviously I feel very blessed as a coach to be a part of that. And we've really enjoyed having some tremendous athletes come through our program, here the last few years. And, not just the 2019 or 2020 season. We've been blessed with great athletes for several years. And for whatever reason, the stars aligned in those seasons, and we made it to those championship games. So our hope and our goal is to get back again this season.
Give listeners an idea of how you ended up at Nixa. Where'd you cut your teeth at collegiately, and how long have you been there?
Oh gosh, so I actually did not play collegiately. I played in high school, and then I attended college at Missouri State University, which was at that time Southwest Missouri State University. It's been a few years ago. So when I was in college, I got the opportunity to start doing some coaching at the high school that I graduated from Seymour High School. And they had asked me to come back and be an assistant for not only volleyball, but basketball as well. So I actually started my coaching career pretty much right out of high school. And that guided me into, going ahead and majoring in physical education and deciding that, yep, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. So that's kind of how I got my coaching career started. And, I was fortunate out of college. I got a teaching and coaching job there at Seymour and taught there for 5 years. From there, moved on to Mountain View Birch Tree Liberty High School, kind of there in Southeast Missouri, and enjoyed 4 great years there. I had some really successful teams coaching volleyball there. From there, went to Parkview High School in Springfield. Stephanie Bates had a lot to do with that move for me. She called me up and asked me if that's something that might interest me. And honestly, at the time, I wasn't looking to make a move, but it just so happened that things kind of worked out, and that move was made. So was at Parkview for 3 years, and then the Nixa job opened up, and I thought, well, I'm going to take a shot, put my name in there, see what happens. And a little bit to my surprise, I got the job and just finished my 7th year there at Nixa. So couldn't be happier. Hope I get to stay there for a long, long time.
Well, I tell you what, you keep winning like you're winning. They'd be silly to move on from you. But Coach, over these past 2 seasons, what have you going into the 2021 season? What have you got to replace roster wise to kind of keep that truck rolling?
Actually this season, from our starting varsity lineup at the end of last year, I'm really replacing one middle blocker. We did lose 5 seniors from this last year's team. A few of them were more role players that had a DS. So as far as, that starting lineup, I'm really just replacing one key player, that middle hitter, Taylor Goldman, which is going to be starting her collegiate career here in just a few weeks at John Brown University down in Arkansas. So we're excited for her on that. But, this is the first time in a few years where, a lot of our pieces from the previous season are really coming back into place. So I don't expect there to be a lot of movement within positions. Most of our players are going to, continue playing the same position. We've just got to find that middle blocker piece and who's going to be able to fill that role the best and be able to go from there. So.
visiting with Annie Zimmerman, the head volleyball coach for the Nixa Lady Eagles. And Coach, what's the summer been like? I know last year, I've talked to football coaches and cross country coaches over the summer, and really everything was kind of shut down last summer, didn't have a lot of opportunities. And now, the football coaches and, the fall sports coaches have been so grateful just to be busy, to have things on their schedule. What's the summer been like for the Lady Eagles?
Busy, which is good. That's the way we want it. We've had great opportunities to get in the gym and work together, and great opportunities to go play some other teams. We participated in some league games in the month of June, and then we go play some tournaments in the month of July. And we've fortunately been able to do all those things. Kind of this summer has resembled the most normal schedule that we've had, obviously, in a couple of years. So it was nice to kind of get back to that normalcy. We hope that we're able to continue. We've got fingers crossed that we are able to transition into the fall season and, be able to do that pretty seamlessly. That's the hope and the goal. So, my kids are just willing to do whatever it takes. They have to wear a mask, they'll wear a mask. It doesn't matter. We just want to be able to play and have our season. And we were so fortunate to get through last season. And, we hope, like I said, that this season can somewhat return to kind of that normal. But again, we're willing to do whatever it takes to have that season.
Coach, what was maybe the biggest challenge you had last fall? Was it the not knowing if you could have been shut down at any time? Mm-hmm. What were some of those challenges that you faced that there are no books for? And it's not something you went to SMS. They didn't have a class on COVID-19 and how to deal with it. What were the biggest challenges?
Sure. I think early on for me was just the practice planning piece and trying to keep, trying to be productive in what we try to get done in our practices early in the season, and all the things that we want to put in and get done, and do that while keeping our players kind of in small pods or small groups. That way, if someone had to be quarantined, it didn't affect the entire team. So I think just from a planning perspective, that was a big challenge for me early on. We were kind of able to get in a groove, and that got a little easier as we went. But, just always being mindful of, who I'm putting where. And when you've got, I think I kept 34 kids on our roster last year, which was the most I've kept in a while. And, just planning and accounting for where every single one of those players were at every single minute of practice was definitely, I think for me, kind of the biggest challenge. But like I said, kind of once we got rolling, got into a little bit of a groove, it became a little easier as we went. Of course, it's really hard to prepare to not have a player, and that could happen at any time. So we really emphasized last year our kids being well-rounded players, because you never know, one of our outside hitters may have to go play right side, or may have to play in the middle a little bit where they're not used to. So we really tried to focus our practice time on letting them have opportunities to play all of those different positions, just so if we ever got in that situation, they would be a little more comfortable with it.
As you go forward here into 2021, who are some players on your team that you kind of want to make folks aware of? Who should we be watching? And I know you've got a lot of returners, but who are some of the standout kids that maybe step up and maybe take a center stage this year?
I think really my entire senior class has the capability of being that standout player. And then, of course, we have some underclassmen too that kind of really shined at the end of last year. But I'll go ahead and start with some of my seniors. We have Sydney Golden and JC Fixon, who are returning, and they were both all-state athletes last year as juniors. Both have committed to play at the collegiate level. So obviously we are looking for them to have big contributions to our team again this year, because they certainly did last year. We have Jenna Medeiros, who was one of our starting middles last year, who's returning. That, kind of early on in the season last year, I wouldn't say she struggled, but I think making that transition into varsity level volleyball, it took a little bit of time for her. And by mid to late season, she really blossomed and was really doing some phenomenal things for us and making some very big contributions. So to have her back, in the middle. With that now experience, I think she'll do fantastic for us this season. We also have one of our DSs, Addison Twy, which is a phenomenal athlete, super high energy. So she'll be in our backcourt again and helping kind of lead our defense. And like I said, she just brings great energy to our court. So I think she's even though she's on the floor for 3 rotations and then goes off, I think just her presence anywhere with our team makes a huge difference for us. And then we have Bill Meyer, who as a junior last year was one of our starting outsides, competed for that spot early on against 1 or 2 other seniors and actually won the spot. And by mid to late season, again, we're making those really big contributions for us. So I think all 5 of those players will be very key in us having success early in the season. And I want them to have that growth mindset. I don't want them to be satisfied with where they're at, with where we were at as a team at the end of last season. I want that growth to continue. And I think they want that as well. I think they're hungry to prove that there's still more there, that they can be better. So I look for them to be great leaders for our team overall this season.
Here we are, mid-July, August 9th is the start of fall practices. What do the Eagles have in store between now and that first practice, and then you head into that jamboree, I believe, at Kickapoo?
Yes, yeah, we're in the Kickapoo jamboree at Kickapoo, which is a really competitive one. It's us, Kickapoo, Ozark, and Carl Junction. So great teams that we get to play against there early on. So that's always good to kind of see where you're at. But from now, we only have next week is our last week of being in the gym and working on some things until we go into our dead week, which starts on July 31st. So we technically have 4 more days that we'll be together. And something that we did today and we talked about after the last tournament we played in last week is we just kind of need to get back to basics a little bit. I think all of our kids have played a lot of volleyball between club and school. We played games. You play games, lots of games, and that's good. But I feel like some of our fundamental skills have kind of started to get maybe a little bit sloppy. So we need to start fine tuning those again. And so that was our focus today in our skills session. And I felt really good walking out of the gym. I felt like we had accomplished a lot of good things, and I think the kids did too. So that'll be our focus again next week. Our varsity will finish out our summer program next Friday. We travel to Lafayette to compete in a tournament up there. So we'll see how well these skill days have kind of worked for us and see if it looks a little bit better that last day of July there that we'll be together. And then obviously they get to take some time off, rest. They need to rest a little bit. And, usually that dead week, all it does is get them really excited for that first day of practice. And that's how I want them coming in. I want them to be excited to be there and ready to hit the ground running.
You bet. Well, Coach Zimmerman, as always, I certainly appreciate you being generous with your time here. And it's been very informative. I didn't realize you had that many coming back off of that team. If you look over my right shoulder, you can see the state championship picture here in the new studio. And but it's been great to catch up with you. And best of luck. And hopefully we'll get to visit throughout the season.
That sounds great. Thank you so much for having me again. I really appreciate it.
You bet. Next, the Lady Eagles volleyball coach, Annie Zimmerman, and we'll be back after this. MissouriSportsPage.com, Missouri Sports Hall of Famer, writer Rob Raines. Mr. Raines, thank you so much for being a part of the show.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
And Rob, go back to, let's talk about, what's the last book that you had published? Because I've got Intentional Walk that I showed up. You had a book signing, and you autographed, you were courteous enough to autograph a copy of, for me. Was that the last book that you've had published?
No, I had a couple since then, more kind of local books. One actually was a book that kind of a travel guide that my wife and I did called All Roads That Lead to St. Louis, which was kind of a guide to all the Cardinals' different minor league teams. But the two problems we had with that book were, one, it came out right about the time the pandemic was starting, so all the minor league games were wiped out. And then since then, of course, you've lost two of the affiliates in Johnson City and State College. So that book's kind of a collector's item now because it's out of date a little bit. And then I wrote a book up here, a local book with a guy that owned a restaurant, everybody probably in Springfield, that had been to St. Louis for a Cardinal game, probably eating dinner at Charlie Gito's. So we got together and did his memoirs here a couple of years ago. So that was a more recent project there.
Well, outstanding. And it's, my family, I live in Bolivar now, and of course you're a native of this area, Springfield. But I was born in St. Louis. My dad was an Afton graduate, grew up on the Hill, catty corner from Yogi Berra's
there you go.
nephew. And but just a great connection there to St. Louis. My grandfather built the 66 Busch Stadium, and
nice.
My dad worked for Herzog for a number of years. So a lot of connections there, and would be remiss in not talking about, oh my goodness, how did they let that one get away last night?
That was a tough one. Yeah, I really felt bad for Oviedo because, he'd done everything he could to win that ball game, and just could do nothing but sit there and stand in the dugout, and they kept showing shots of him on TV and everything. I know he was very calm and collected on the outside, but I'm sure he was turning on the inside. So that's one of these days that he's going to have to get that first career win. But I thought he was going to get it last night. But yeah, that was a tough one. It'll be interesting to see how they bounce back tonight.
What were your thoughts on pulling him after 74 pitches after the fifth inning when he's given up, 3 hits and struck out 5 and just walked 1?
I thought two things about it. Number one, that we didn't realize at the time, but apparently he had some kind of an issue with his finger. Mike Schultz did admit that after the game. And I wonder if you remember the night before they'd had all this kind of, I don't want to call it cloak and dagger stuff, but a little back and forth about who was going to be the starting pitcher for last night, because we all expected it to be Oviedo. That was all the indications it was going to be, but they wouldn't make it official until yesterday morning. So I have a feeling that had something to do with the finger issue. They wanted to make sure he was going to be okay to pitch. So that's number one. And then number two, I think he'd had so much tough luck about not leaving a game in a position to win that they just didn't want him to put in that position again. You thought you had enough innings in the bullpen to cover that. You're up 4-1 at the time, the 6th inning. So I didn't have a problem with it. It was the third time through, the order for the Cubs guys who still are, despite what the lack of success they've had, they're still a dangerous lineup in the middle of that batting order. So I didn't have a problem with taking him out there. The problem I have with the Cardinals bullpen is, and it's not any of Mike Schultz's fault because he has to pitch the guys that are on the roster, but I just think they've had so many injuries, and they've had, kind of ineffective performances that they've got some guys in that bullpen that I don't know that they're major league pitchers. They're wearing a major league roster and they're pitching in major league games, but I just don't know that they're really capable of being major league pitchers. And I think that was the problem they ran into last night.
Well, the injuries, you look at, it's still Flaherty still got the most wins of the starting staff, and he hadn't thrown since May, with 8 wins.
Yeah. Yeah. No, so I think, you got Wainwright's the only guy that's in the rotation that was in the rotation when the season started. Now, I know part of that was because Kim was hurt and a couple other things, but still, though, yeah, that's, but I think the problems they've had with the starting rotation obviously have affected the bullpen, so they've got, some challenges ahead of them. There's no doubt.
As you look at where the team stands right now, I believe 9 out. What are the Cardinals buyers or are they sellers at this point? Or are they just going to stand pat?
I think they could be some of both. I think that the problem what they probably have is the players that the Cardinals would want to get from other teams if they were going to be buyers would require some of the prospects to go in deals that they don't want to trade. So I think that's going to be a problem. And number two is I think the guys that the other teams would want off the Cardinals, some of the back end relievers, Gallegos, Cabrera, those are guys the Cardinals don't want to trade either. So I think they're going to talk to teams. I think they're going to listen. I think they'd like to acquire, especially a starting pitcher. But I just think the cost is going to be something that, the market for starting pitchers is going to be so robust that teams can hold out for, Kyle Gibson, for example, of Texas, it would make perfect sense to come here. I just think Texas is going to hold out for more than the Cardinals are going to want to trade. So my guess is, though, if they do anything, it'll be minimal.
Last night's game maybe swayed a little bit more to the, to the seller side, just based on what happened.
I just don't see that because the guys that say that the other teams would want if you're selling, I don't think the Cardinals want to give those guys up. So I just think this is just one of those crazy years. You just kind of get through it, realize that all the injuries have made such an impact. You're going to have, so much money coming off the books this winter with some of the potential free agents that you don't expect to re-sign. And then you go out and spend some money this winter and get some guys to build the club back up that way. So, we'll see. And it's going to be interesting to watch to see what happens.
As you look offensively, they've been so challenged this year. And I know Bader was out for an extended period of time, but they're 29th in runs scored, 24th in hits, 24th in batting average. What do you think the problem might be there? Is it the batting order? I know Schilt has tried all kinds of, batting Goldschmidt second, third, fourth, fifth. Yachty's been kind of inconsistent up and down. And as you look, just since the All-Star break in those 5 games, Bader, Goldschmidt, and DeYoung are 21 to 53 in those games. The whole rest of the starting lineup plus Carpenter doesn't have 21 hits because they're really struggling.
Yeah, the inconsistency has been frustrating. And I think part of the problem is with that lineup is you look at that lineup on paper, and I'm not necessarily doing batting order in order. I'm just saying the guys that you have in the starting lineup, wherever they're hitting, those are, for the most part, are all pretty proven major league hitters. The only exception, of course, is Carlson, who I think is, for being a rookie, has more than held his own. I mean, there've been some up and downs, but that you would expect that with a 22-year-old player, playing his first full season in the big league. So by and large, and so the problem is you look at that lineup and you say, who would you replace? Who would you want differently playing one of those positions? Okay, Tommy Edman has not had a great offensive year, but I think that people still think he's should be a very productive player. So it basically comes down to, if those guys that you have in that lineup on a regular basis aren't producing, I don't know what else you do. Tyler O'Neill's, been a little bit inconsistent, but I think if you had said before the season started, this is where his numbers would be at this point, I think you've been happy with that. Bader's, the injuries have definitely had an effect, but DeYoung has had his tough first half, but he's been better here the last few weeks in July. So I say it's really hard, it's really frustrating. I think that's one of the things that Mozeliak is dealing with. One of the things that Phil is doing about is, what do you do different? How do you make the results better from when these guys that can do it aren't doing it? What do you do? I don't know. I don't have the answer.
What is it going to take for them to maybe make a run at Milwaukee? Milwaukee struggles also offensively, but they're a great pitching team. They've got the best staff maybe in baseball outside of the Dodgers as you look at that. But the wild card's not coming out of the Central. I
don't think so either. No, I think that the main thing is they're going to have to win the head-to-head. I think they've got 13 games left against Milwaukee the rest of the season. So starting, I don't even think that starts till the middle of August. So you're hoping by then Michaelis and Flaherty are back in the rotation. If they come back to the rotation, then that trickle-down effect should make the bullpen better. When they move Gant out of the rotation, and that maybe gave you another arm in the bullpen. So, and they're just going to have to win those games. They're just going to have to, try to pick up 1 or 2 games a week. Otherwise, win the games that you're supposed to win. Beat the teams that are not, good clubs, and then the other ones win the games head to head. I think it's still doable. We've seen it with other Cardinal teams in the past that they've come from way back. Because Milwaukee is a good team, but they're not a great team. They're not, they're not chasing down the 27 Yankees here. So, I think it's capable, but they're going to have to. They can't give away games like they gave away last night. That's bottom line too.
And we're visiting with Missouri Sports Hall of Fame writer Rob Raines. Rob, kind of give the viewers an idea of what your day consists of. I know you're writing for STL Sports Page, and obviously making trips to the ballpark.
Yeah, pretty much just covering the games on a pretty much nightly basis. Even the road games, if I don't travel, I'm still paying attention and writing stories every night about the road games as well. Try to keep my eye on what's going on in the minor league department. Get down to Springfield every once in a while to watch some games. Got a couple of trips planned here in the next couple of weeks. I always do an annual re-ranking of the Cards prospects after the trade deadline is over, so I'm getting ready to start organizing that and figure out where all the new players are going to fit into that, and if anybody has moved on to like Carlson and those guys have graduated off that list, they have to be replaced by somebody. So that's kind of the next big project that I'm working on. But just looking for for good stories to write and looking for, obviously the day-to-day news of what's going on with the ball club.
And for folks that want to follow you and read some of those writings, stlsportspage.com, what are some other handles that you have?
At Twitter, I'm at Rob Rains, just really simple, ROBRAINS, and we, of course, put up all the links to the stories on the website as well through the Twitter handle. We have a newsletter which goes out on an email basis, so there's a contact us site on the page. On the website, you could go to that and register for the email that has links to the stories, and we have some contests that we give away. Give away a couple tickets for tomorrow night's game. For one thing. So just, a lot of different ways that you can pick it up on, but the newsletter is a good way to kind of catch everything that you might have missed. We don't send it out all the time, but, once every 3 weeks, usually we have a newsletter going out. It arrives in your email inbox. Very good. Very good. Well, Rob, as always, I really appreciate your time. We haven't visited as much with the radio, and last time we met was when you signed that book for me. But hopefully we'll do it. That won't be the last time. We'll get back down there one of these days and do something else. So appreciate you having me on. Thank you. You bet. Rob Rains, ladies and gentlemen, stlsportspage.com. We'll be back after these messages.